guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am pre-recording videos and I don't know which one is going up first. So welcome to my labor and delivery story. It might be a little hard for me to remember because it's already been 6 weeks. Just bear with me. I don't even know where to start. Well, I did get induced. I went in to get induced on May 3rd at about 5 p.m. I was already 1 centimeter dilated before I even went in. So I was in early labor. I wasn't by any means in active labor yet. I went in, they let me eat dinner. Then they gave me my first dose of whatever was supposed to soften my cervix at about 6 p.m. Then they let us go ahead and go to bed because they were like, you're gonna want to sleep, you're not gonna go into labor, or shouldn't anyways yet, so just go ahead and get some rest, sleep as much as you can. But obviously I was so excited and so ready to meet her that it was kind of hard to fall asleep. But then they woke me up at maybe midnight, 12:30, to give me the second dose of the pill. Went back to sleep, everything was fine. My contractions did kind of start to pick up a little bit. They checked me throughout that night. I was still at a 1 the entire time. About 7:30-ish in the morning, they came and checked me to see if I made any progress. I was still at a 1, but my cervix was softer. They they let me eat breakfast, and then they put me on Pitocin and started to kind of get my contractions going. By this time, my mom and my mother-in-law came to the hospital to go through the laboring process. So my contractions did pick up throughout the day. This was May 4th now. They did start to get pretty intense. Also, mind you, after they gave me the second dose at midnight, my contractions really picked up to the point where they were hurting. And they were every 2 minutes, lasting a minute long, and my husband and I would walk around the halls of the hospital. It did help move her down a little bit, but it did not help me dilate at all, sadly. So I didn't dilate at all with that while walking around the halls. So we went back in the room because it was getting kind of hard to walk around and stuff. So we decided to go ahead and just go back in the room and let me sit in the bed until morning. I mean, it was morning because we were literally watching the sun come up as we were walking up and down the halls. Then I still contracted pretty strongly throughout the day. I don't remember what time. They checked me all throughout the day to see if I was making any progress, but I got to a 1.5 at some point. At some point, I really don't remember when it was, but they told me I was at a 4. And I don't know if it was already starting to get kind of late by then. We were at a 4, and by this point, a lot of families started coming in to see how I was doing. We had a whole room full of visitors. Only our family, barely anybody was coming to visit anybody else, but the hospital was full of women about ready to have their babies. But we had a whole waiting room full of just our family. Nothing had really happened. They did break my water. I don't remember when they did that. I want to say around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it might have been earlier or later. I can't really remember, just because I was in so much pain and kind of just out of it that I didn't get my epidural until 2 hours before I even pushed, or maybe even an hour. No, 2 hours. Yeah, somewhere around there. So my contractions started to get really strong, to the point I could not talk through them. I was roaring. It was bad. Not even really roaring. I was just kind of trying to keep my breathing in control, but more I don't want to say moaning because it wasn't really moaning either, but it was just painful. I just remember it being pretty painful. I tried to go for natural as long as I could, but when they told me you're not progressing at all, I kind of got defeated and was I don't know if I can go through this pain anymore if I'm not progressing at all. I can't keep going through this if it's not going anywhere. So I decided to go ahead and get an epidural. I don't remember how long it was. I know they had me on fluids for a while because you have to get fluids before they can give you the epidural. I know I had 2 bags of it, I think, before they even came and did my epidural. I think in between that point sometime they came and checked me and said I was at a 4, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So now I remember the anesthesiologist coming in. I don't exactly know what time it is because I didn't really check. He came in. I got on the side of the bed. My husband did hold me up, and then my mom was behind my husband kind of holding him up. He was fine. He watched the needle go in my back and everything. I didn't feel the epidural needle at all. The only part that I felt was when he put the lidocaine in my back to numb me. That's really the only part that I felt. And then I didn't feel pressure. I didn't feel pinching. I didn't feel anything. He was like, boop, you're done. And I was like, oh, really? And then he taped it up my back. That was really nice. But here's where things start to get rough. So I just get my epidural. He had me sitting up for a minute, and he was like, okay, do you have any weird, like, is your ear ringing? Do you taste anything funny? I was like, no. And then I just kind of see like these sparks. I don't know how to explain it, but they look like little crystals. So I was like, I don't know, I'm seeing like these weird things. And he was like, okay, let's lay her down. So they laid me down for a while. I think I was laid down for like 30 to 45 minutes on my back, just flat, while he was trying to get everything set up. They were getting everything set up. I just laid there. I felt my entire right side go numb, but I could still feel my left leg. I was like, okay, maybe it just hasn't really hit my left leg yet. Like maybe it's eventually gonna like go ahead and like start spreading to the left leg. Right leg was completely numb. I could still feel my toes and like wiggle them, but I could still feel most of my left side. And then when I got a contraction, I still felt like really bad cramping in the left side, but not the right. It's like, okay, this is weird, but maybe it's still working its way in. And that's what the nurse was trying to tell me. She was like, it's still working its way in. It's fine. It'll spread. It's like, okay. So they were like, okay, well, she's still really far back there, so we're going to have you sit straight up to see if she'll move down. And they also did the peanut ball method to let me lay on my sides to dilate more, which that really worked. And I'll explain that in just a minute. But they had me sitting straight up for a while first. Was still kind of feeling contractions in my left side, but not that bad. And then they were like, okay, well, she's kind of moved down a little bit, so now we're going to start laying you on your sides to see if we can get you to dilate. So they laid me on my right side first and had me take a nap. And then they switched me to my left side. Then they switched me back to my right side. And then they switched me back to my left side. Twice on each side. So, and I think they rotated me every 30 minutes, I think. But while I was sitting up, I had visitors coming in and all of that. But once they laid me on my right side, everybody had already like left the room. Our moms came back in there, and I'm laying there and I was sleeping, and I'm like, okay, my left side is really starting to hurt. Like it hurts really bad. And like I start moaning in pain because it starts really hurting. Like I cannot feel my right side, but I'm feeling my left side. Like I am having contractions in my left side. So I knew they didn't stop. I was aware that contractions don't stop just because you get an epidural. But I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be feeling them this much. And the anesthesiologist told me, he was like, it's not going to take the pressure away, but it'll take like the pain away, like the edge off. So I was like, okay, that's cool. But no, I am feeling pain. This is not pressure. This is pain. I told my husband, I was like, this is painful. Like I'm not feeling pressure. So they told the nurse, and they were like, okay, well, your anesthesiologist is now in a C-section right now. So I was like, oh, great. And this is like 10 o'clock, I want to say. I think it's 10. Another nurse came in, and she came and checked me, and she was like, you're at an 8. And I was like, what? Yeah, I was at an 8. So she was like, okay, just give me a second, because your anesthesiologist is like, he's in a C-section, so he can't come yet. And so she goes out in the hallway, and I just start like screaming in pain, because like now I'm feeling it in my right side, and I don't know what's going on. Like I'm feeling my entirety of my contractions. So I'm like screaming and trying to like keep my breathing. It was bad. I just remember people like rushing around me, Colton kind of like being a little anxious and like trying to calm me down, my mom trying to calm me down. and I was just crying because it hurt so bad. I started to feel pressure down there. They're trying to just tell me to breathe through it because he's still stuck in a C-section. I'm trying to just keep breathing and going. They were like, okay, he's out of the C-section, so he comes into my room. These poor nurses are just getting out of the C-section and hear me like yelling and like all that. And my doctor comes in, my OB, and she checks me and she's like, oh, you're at a 9.5. And I was like, what? It's like, okay, so we're gonna start getting ready to start pushing. And I'm like, I can still feel everything. The anesthesiologist comes in and he kicks up everything. He's like, this is the most that I can give you. If it doesn't work, I'm sorry, I don't know what else to do. Okay, that's fine. It didn't work. It went to my legs and made my legs tingle, but I could still feel everything. I could feel all the contractions. As I was pushing, I could feel everything of her. I felt like her head come out. I felt her body come out. I felt gushes when her entirety came out. I felt them take out my placenta. I felt them stitching me. Like, I felt it all. That does not mean I had a horrible birthing experience. I didn't. I had a great birthing experience. Just because my epidural failed does not mean it was awful, because I would do it again. Yes, it was painful, but I was able to control myself and control my breathing, and I was able to push through it. I pushed her out in 50 minutes. She was still pretty up there, so I had to kind of push her out myself and push her down, which was the hardest part. That was the only really bad part, and if I would have had to go get a C-section, they would have had to put me under because the epidural failed. And so I am very blessed and very glad that I did not have to go get a C-section and that I was able to get her out. That is what happened. She was born at 11:43 and was almost born on the 5th, but she is a little Star Wars baby now. So yeah, she was born at 11:43, 6 pounds, 11 ounces, 19 inches long. But that is little Renly. She is beautiful, she's perfect, and I love her so much. And I would do it again. Yeah, but that is my labor and delivery story. I had a 1-degree tear and a small laceration, which they stitched, obviously. It was healed in 3 weeks. I haven't had my 6-week appointment yet, but I will soon. I will see you guys in my next video, and I love you very much. And I appreciate all of the support and all of the congratulations and the kind words. And I will see you soon. Bye.